In at 10, Princess Quest 3. At first glance, the Princess Quest 3 game obviously takes place within a pizzeria. You can tell thanks to the doors and the floor design. It's pretty obvious. However, what I think is quite neat is the fact that this isn't just any random Fazbear location. It's actually the main menu hub from FNAF VR. The prize counter is behind us with the same design, the stage is at the top and Pirate's Cove is to the left. There's a door on the right which would be the door that Glitch Trap comes through, and the final door in this room is also the stage, which is where Glitch Trap is standing when he attacks you. And then the final door of this version of Princess Quest is the one that we got sealed behind in Help Wanted's ending. So I think that it's pretty safe to say that this is the Help Wanted main hub. And at 9, Failsafe. The whole reason that Princess Quest is a thing in this game, it was to lock Vanny away and prevent her from regaining control of her body. So why did they create a sort of failsafe that allows her to escape? I mean, sure, they didn't expect a kid to come along and figure it out, maybe, but that's like having a self-destruct button on a bomb that you plan to use, and that you also want to make sure that nobody can stop you. It's just stupid. Like, if you want something to work, why would you give it away to fail, you know? This is one of the dumbest things that AFTON has done. And it's probably the second dumbest thing overall, the first being kids in his own damn pizzeria. But seriously, what's the point behind having a way to undo your evil plans? If you don't plan on keeping Vanny under your spell for that long, or even alive for that long, couldn't you just like choose to release her? Be like, okay, I'm gonna like let go of this body now. Or why didn't you just like bring Princess Quest 1, 2, and 3 all the way down to AFTON's charging station so that nobody else can access it? And then when AFTON's done, you'd be like, okay, you're free. And if Vanny won't bring them down because she's still part Vanessa, just have Monty do it. Like, seriously, people, why am I the only smart serial killer? And I haven't even killed anyone. And at 8, Glitch. Now, there are very few really popular theories about Princess Quest because honestly it seems fairly cut and dry, but I think I have something that could be an interesting concept. In the first trailers to the actual Security Breach game, we hear Vanny's voice glitch out multiple times, but that never happens in the game. But why? My theory is that Vanny's voice could have been glitching out more because we were completing the Princess Quest games. If they wanted to continue that theme in the game, they could have, and as we progress through the story, we could end up hearing her glitch more and more. However, they had to keep the scope of the game smaller than they probably wanted to, despite already increasing the game size, and after all, they did release it unfinished. So, could this have been a planned feature? It would have been really cool, and it would have been a way to show us what we were doing with Princess Quest was actually having an effect on her, but I don't know if they planned it like that, but I think it would have been cool if they did. And at 7, Ported. Now, one of the lore duffel bags that you can collect throughout the Pizzaplex explains that these Princess Quest machines actually were normally arcade machines. They explain where they came from, and apparently the first one was ported from a mobile game, that obviously being a reference to the mobile version of FNAF Help Wanted. However, the one writing this report also questions why they would port from mobile, and honestly, that's a very good question. If the mobile game had worked to capture Vanny, like in the mobile version, why make it more accessible? Couldn't you have just kept it on the phone and buried the phone or something and made it so much more difficult, even potentially impossible to free Vanessa from your control? Like, what was the point of porting it to an arcade cabinet if it's only going to make it easier for Vanessa to escape your clutches? I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. I've tried to be an asshole before, and I wasn't able to, and I think this is why. Like, I cannot physically be a bad person, because if I was capable of doing that, I would be unstoppable. That's why they made me the hero, because if I was bad, no one would defeat me. I'm too smart. And at 6, the Aftons. In the best ending, which is the Princess Quest ending, there are quite a few confusing moments. The most confusing one for me at least being the idea that Gregory would go get ice cream with Vanessa once she's done trying to kill him. Why would they do that? Some seem to think that it's because they're related or representing the Afton kids. And thanks to MatPat, there is a little more evidence to this. The ice cream that Vanessa gets while on the hill is very reminiscent of the ice cream cone that lured Elizabeth into Baby's arm grabbing or scooping range, whatever you want to say. And the cone has like the normal like soft serve, like, you know when you go to Dairy Queen and you like order a cone but you don't get it dipped? It looks like that, except this time it's mint chocolate chip, okay? And it looks a lot like the tall soft serve cone that Baby presented Elizabeth in order to lure her closer, and then, you know, just... Is that evidence or just a coincidence? That depends. What kind of leans it towards more evidence is the fact that Vanessa isn't the only one with a potentially symbolic dessert in her little clutches. And thanks to MapApp for pointing this out, Gregory also has a popsicle, a Freddy popsicle to be exact. You know, like those SpongeBob ones that never look right, but that dude on TikTok was going around until he found one that looked perfect. But this time it's Freddy Fazbear. And the lighting of the sun here makes it look very golden in color, as if it was a reference to a certain yellow bear that could have had something to do with Crying Child's death. And if this was meant to be Crying Child, this could be a good way of indicating that. However, it only gets better, because Gregory has taken a bite out of the head of this popsicle, which could also be a reference to how Crying Child met his unfortunate fate, because you know. Halfway through into number 5, original mission. The arcade conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find where we learn that something else seems to be going on here. To quote that note, called The Arcade Conspiracy, exit interview. They are working together, the arcades. They're hiding something. The glitches. Glitch them all at the same time, then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I'm so close. Just one more night, please. I can save the princess. End quote. Now, it's clear that this is referring to the Princess Quest games, because they kept talking about the princess, but it also seems to not be talking about them, because we don't have to glitch the Princess Quest games in order to win. We just have to beat them in orders from 1 to 3, and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well, at least according to more lore duffel bags. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater is glitching, or can glitch. Chica's Feeding Frenzy won't turn off when unplugged, but you can find it in the bakery, or at least you're supposed to. And the Monty Golf A-Arcade, that according to its duffel bag shouldn't be in the mini golf area, but is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and the Monty Golf game, Chica's Feeding Frenzy isn't an arcade cabinet. You can only access it using a mod that lets you cheat it from the main menu. So I feel like this was an intentional feature that was left on the cutting room floor, where you might have to beat these 3 games by glitching them out, and then you'd unlock Princess Quest 1 and then have to play through the 3. Also, my lowest score on Monty Golf is 14, and the lowest possible score you can get is 13, so I feel pretty good about that. I spent way too long during my stream doing that. And at 4, 3 stars. There are 6 possible endings in FNAF Security Breach. Each ending is rated between 1 and 3 stars. There is an ending that is considered the canon ending, although interestingly enough, it's not 3 stars. Endings other than the bad ending require extra conditions beyond leaving the Pizzaplex, but there's only one ending that has 3 stars. That ending being the Princess Quest ending. Upon defeating the game within the game, the ending scene will start, where Princess Quest 3 gives an error screen to Gregory. He then leaves Vanny's lair to see that all the bots are decommissioned and Vanny's mask and like little bow tie are on the ground. He exits the Pizzaplex with Freddy's head in a duffel bag, and then Vanessa is also helping him out, which is again weird. The epilogue scene then shows Gregory, Freddy's head, and Vanessa sitting on the same hill as Gregory and Freddy do in the canon ending, which is also very close to the hill that Charlotte's grave is on in FNAF 6's ending, and the 2 are eating ice cream, and then Freddy's just kind of sitting there. But like, this is the only 3-star ending in the game. Why? Like, obviously that makes it have some form of significance, but we have yet to know what it means, officially speaking, because this isn't the canon ending. Getting close to the end, and number 3, the eyes. Okay, there are plenty of weird things going on with Princess Quest and Security Breach in general, but one of the weirdest things that I wanted to explain personally is the weird eyes that you can see in Princess Quest 3. The eyes appear in the room with all the conveyor belts, however they don't really do anything, they just appear to be a face that you can only see the eye area with. With the irises of these eyes being purple, I think it's safe to say that I believe that this is probably William watching Vanessa and making sure she stays locked up. The only way I can really describe this person is that they're white with purple eyes. That's pretty much just William Afton. Oh well, it's most related to William Afton, since the only real detail we have, again, are purple eyes watching us from below the floor. So I think it's safe to say that that's most likely William. It's certainly something to look into further, maybe, it being William watching Vanessa is probably the closest we're gonna get. Penultimately, in at number 2, Cassidy. According to one adamant viewer on my recent 24-hour stream, there's a theory that the princess in Princess Quest is actually meant to be Cassidy. And while I don't agree with this theory, it's still a theory nonetheless, so I might as well talk about it. This theory generates from some apparent files from within one of the games. I'm guessing it would be Security Breach, given that there are 3 games in this one compared to the FNAF VR mobile port where there's only the one Princess Quest game, but apparently according to this viewer, those files indicate that it was Cassidy. I don't know how they indicate it. They wouldn't elaborate, they just kept spamming the same message in chat, despite me saying that I don't care that whatever YouTuber or whoever is saying that they found that, since this is clearly not the case. However, nonetheless, they still said it. The only reason I would possibly believe this was for purely symbolic reasons, since Cassidy is trying to torture William, at least if they are the one you should not have killed, which would end up giving her motive to free Vanessa from William's control. But that's the only reasoning I'd be able to think of for this theory, which makes it seem more like a hypothesis to me, especially because I believe that Crying Child is the one you should not have killed. And finally, in at number 1, Vanny. This is the theory that I truly believe, and that I'm pretty sure has been all but confirmed. Vanessa is certainly the princess that we play as in Princess Quest, since this game was used to lock her away in the first place in both Help Wanted as well as the first version of the game in Security Breach, which is just a recreation of the one that you play in the Help Wanted mobile port, to further solidify that connection. There are also lore bags mentioning how Princess Quest was an arcade machine that was ported to the arcade machine medium from mobile, and they couldn't figure out why. So this is clearly the game that we dealt with in Help Wanted, and since we played as Vanessa in Help Wanted, it only makes sense that Vanessa is once again the princess we're playing as, who inevitably gets caught by Glitch Trap. And then we have to fight our way back out to our body, as indicated by the sword we get in chapters 2 and 3. The biggest piece of evidence here is the final door. That is in essence an exact 16-bit replica of the door that we get shut behind in Help Wanted's true ending, which we again do as Vanessa. And at 10, Client 46. The mystery of FNAF Security Breach's Client 46 is one that still plagues us even after the game has been torn to shreds. There's no mention of a name or any other names associated with Client 46, and whoever it is doesn't even speak. The client does appear to be younger, given the tonal shift between the therapists when they're talking to Vanessa and then talking to 46, which could be the reason that the tapes with Vanessa were included, to show that each therapist approaches 46 with a softer, kinder touch. But we know that Client 46 is most likely also a male, given that Therapist 4 asks 46 what they like to do, and the first thing they talk about is sports. When being asked about encrypted communications which seem manipulative in nature, the therapist also says, quote, "Well, the texts say it looked to them like it was an attempt to manipulate you or maybe to lure you somewhere." This is the same language used when educating kids about online safety and predators. So, is this Gregory? Personally, to me, it seems like it, but if you want more of a breakdown on this, check out the Is Gregory Client 46 theory in the iCard. And at 9, Security, level 9. Now, the highest security level that you can actually get access to is level 8. This just requires you to do every one of the security room minigames. However, with level 8 being the highest one that you can actually achieve, it begs the question, why are there doors with security level 10? And while that's a question for another day, my question this time around is also, why are there no security level 9 doors? Throughout the entire Pizzaplex, there are a selection of doors that we are unable to access, either because they're out of service or because they require level 10 security clearance. However, there are no doors that require level 9 security. Why is this? The simple answer is because 10 is more secure, both in an in-universe perspective as well as a gameplay standpoint. Because maybe you can somehow accidentally glitch your way to level 9 clearance. But the theory could also be that it's because in reality there is something incredibly sinister going on behind those level 10 doors. Especially if it's bad enough to hide behind 2 door levels up from your highest clearance and not just 1. And at 8, Inspiration. Now, while the Pizzaplex itself may not be real, are there actually elements of this that could be? Well, actually, yes. It's been confirmed that most of the locations and structures in the Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex were actually based on places that the developers spent their childhood in, which would mean each of these locations draws inspiration from a real place. But it's still unrealistic that a franchise like Fazbear's, having been made famous for having kids constantly go missing, would be able to end up building a whole mall complex. But also, this makes me wonder, is this the plan in real life? I mean, we don't know what this game's year is supposed to be. Like, I originally assumed it was 2022, 2022 because of the FNAF AR emails, but this could also be as late as like 2037 or something, thanks to FNAF 6 and the like. But could the person taking over after Scott actually be planning a real location? Probably not. I don't think that Scott would appreciate that or let it happen, but maybe Chuck E. Cheese needs some healthy competition and not seemingly a monopoly on the whole animatronic pizzeria biz. And it's 7 Dave. Back in the glory days, before we knew who William Afton was, we had many names for the one known as the Purple Guy. None of them were canon, but some people believed that they were. And while they were all confirmed as fake once the official name of William Afton was revealed in the Silver Eyes as well as sister location, maybe one or more of them is actually real. Yeah, I remember calling the Purple Guy Dave before the Silver Eyes came out, but once the Silver Eyes canonized Dave Miller as a fake name, we've kept our eyes out for anyone using a similar alias. Well, lo and behold, it took a couple years, but in Security Breach you were able to find duffel bags that contain messages that hold some form of lore, like the one about the night terrors that I mentioned in another list. Even before that one, in the customer service area where you upgrade your complimentary ticket, you can find a bag that says customer complaint, you should fire Dave, he sucks. It's simply called Hi Dave, but suggests that William maybe still has an influence over this place. You know, I wouldn't put it past him. And it's 6 save spots. The idea that there are various save spots around the map that allow you to save your progress is a good idea. However, this has a whole new implication for like the real life reasons these spots are around the Pizzaplex. Now, if you saved in a simple menu screen, it would be one thing, okay? The whole saving thing would just become a game feature and not canon. However, the inclusion of these save stations means that the saving is canon in the real world of the game. But how? Well, above each save point is a sign that says save your spot, which while yes refers to your spot in the game, it can also refer to something else in the Pizzaplex, and it really has to. They're probably just for making sure that you don't miss out on the various attractions. However, the real confusing part is that those are on all night, but then as soon as the Pizzaplex opens at 6 AM, they all of a sudden stop working. Why? Why are they suddenly just not working when they'd actually be needed? It makes no sense to me. Like, why keep them on all night when nobody's supposed to be in the Pizzaplex? There's something sus going on here, and it's not just Gregory venting. Halfway through into number 5, the Blob. The Blob is the amalgam giant pile of black goo that is only seen in the canon ending to Security Breach. The Blob is a massive sized proportion of wire, tentacle, and animatronic parts with possession of many glowing red eyes, because of course it does. The Blob's main head has a mask identical to that of Funtime Freddy, but with black eyes and pinkish red glowing pupils, and then its endo face reveals to actually have metal plates rather than wire tubes. Their body is a large black mass made of wire tentacles like things. It looks like goo, but it's also not goo. It appears to be some larger version of Molten Freddy after Pizzeria Simulator's fire, but it's far more grotesque and mixed with parts of other animatronics and endoskeletons, even some that seemingly weren't at the pizzeria. You can see parts of older animatronics like Circus Baby and the Puppet, which were in FNAF 6's location, but also Chica, Mangle, Bonnie, and several Endo 2s, and likely others that we can't actually see. However, one detail pointed out to me, at least by Matt Patton in his latest theory, was that Baby's eyes aren't glowing red, suggesting that perhaps Baby's soul isn't in this giant amalgamation, and instead it's being controlled by Funtime Freddy. Similar to how the book's tentacle monster was Baby, but this time it would be Freddy in the game world. And at 4, Arcade Conspiracy. The Arcade Conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find where we learned something else has been going on here, and I'm gonna keep making that joke until I can't anymore. Quote from this Arcade Conspiracy note: "They are working together, the arcades. They are hiding something. The glitches. Glitch them all at the same time. Then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I'm so close. Just one more night. Please, I can save the princess." Now it's clear that it seems to be referring to the Princess Quest games, however it doesn't really seem like we have to glitch the Princess Quest games in order to win. We just have to beat them in order from 1 to 3 and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater, Chica's Feeding Frenzy, which won't turn off even when unplugged, that you can find in the bakery, and Monty Golf A-Arcade that according to its duffel bag shouldn't be in the mini golf area, but is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and the Monty Golf game, Chica's Feeding Frenzy isn't an arcade cabinet. You can only access it by using a mod that lets you cheat it from the main menu. So I feel like it was an intentional feature that was left on the cutting room floor. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Glam Rock Freddy is Henry. Now the idea that Freddy is possessed is a theory that's been floating around for a while, and some assume that the one possessing him is Michael, which does make sense. However, there are also hints that this isn't the case at all, and that it's instead Henry possessing Freddy. Do I think that this is the case? No, but it's still fun to talk about. Starting off with the fire he sets on the rooftop ending if you leave through the prize counter. This ending has Freddy set the prize counter on fire as you two escape to the roof. Now, we know that out of the 3 fires in this series, Henry was the one who set the first 2. He was the one who set the FNAF 6 pizzeria on fire, and the FNAF 3 fire was also most likely set by Henry. Since in Ultimate Custom Night, Orville Elephant claims, quote, "He tried to release you, he tried to release us," in which us is most likely a reference to the FNAF 3 fire, since this is the one where he tried to release the one you should not have killed, and the one you should not have killed is talking through Orville. So Freddy's first idea to set fire to this place may not be a coincidence. He also seems extremely eager to do so. There's also the idea that Henry was in the FNAF 6 pizzeria when it burned down, since he said that he was nearby. I don't know, it could be possible, and if it was, what a twist. But ultimately, and at number 2, Gregory is 40. To be totally honest, the knowledge that this kid has, okay, exceeds even some of my own. This kid is the size of a 4-year-old. He can fit inside Freddy, he can fit inside baby strollers, and various other small areas around the Pizzaplex. He's too small to drive one of the go-karts alone, but he knows how to restart generators, operate a trash compactor, start and drive a van, as well as identify a car battery, connect the jumper cables on a car battery properly, and then use those to fix Freddy's whole recharge every hour issue. I don't even know how to do that properly. I don't know. Like, how the living hell does that make any sense? If he can't drive the go-kart, how can he drive a van? And how do they solve the whole power issue in the true ending? Because Freddy is still going to need to recharge every hour, and they don't have a van this time. So how do Freddy and Gregory make it to the hill without Freddy needing to recharge? Like, how do they solve that issue? This kid knows more words than I do, yet somehow is still the size of a 4-year-old? No, it makes absolutely no sense, and this kid's weird superpower is the thing that makes this game so confusing. It only really makes sense if he's a robot that was supposed to mimic a toddler who's been on for decades and has been learning this whole time. And finally, in at number 1, the AFTONs. In the best ending, the Princess Quest ending, there are quite a few confusing moments. The most confusing one for me is the idea that Gregory would go get ice cream with Vanessa when she's done trying to kill him. Like, why would you do that? Some people seem to think that it's because they're related or representing the dead AFTON kids. And thanks to MatPat, there is actually a little more evidence to this. The ice cream that Vanessa gets while on the hill is very reminiscent of the ice cream cone that lured Elizabeth into Baby's arms. The cone with the tall soft serve on top looks like the cone with the tall soft serve on top that Baby presented to Elizabeth in order to lure her closer and then subsequently kill her. Is that evidence or just a coincidence? You see, I wasn't really sure, but thanks to MatPat, he pointed out that Gregory also has a popsicle. A Freddy popsicle to be exact. You know, like those SpongeBob ones that never look right, but it's Freddy Fazbear, not SpongeBob. And the lighting makes it look very yellow in color, as if it was a reference to a certain yellow bear that could have had something to do with the crying child's death. If this was truly meant to be Crying Child, this could be a good way of indicating it. But not only is it this good, it gets better. Crying Child, or I guess Gregory, has taken a bite out of the head of the popsicle. Could also be a reference to how he met his unfortunate fate. And that, combined with the other ice cream, I feel like that's pretty good. And at 10, Henry's Mustard Man. The Mustard Man is one of the most confusing points of FNAF 6. This seemingly new character felt like William Afton, driving a purple car and living in a house with kids that we had established to be Williams, but he wasn't purple. This led some to the conclusion that perhaps this was Henry, William's business partner and father to Charlotte, the one who goes on to possess the puppet. This caused us to think hard and look at different aspects of the series in a whole new way. If this was Henry, that would mean that the FNAF 4 house was Henry's, and that the security cameras in Sister Location's security room were of Henry's house, meaning either he put them there or William was spying on them. It would also mean that the FNAF 4 girls' room was Charlotte's and not Elizabeth's. It threw a wrench into everything we thought we knew about the series, and some still believe this theory to this day. And honestly, I don't know what to believe. I don't know if it's right or wrong. And at 9, Bite of 87. The Bite of 87 is like the center point of all FNAF confusion. This event was introduced in the first game and has never been explained fully. The absolute that this cause just made everything more difficult to put into place. Who caused the bite? Who got bit? Was it Mangle? Was it Fredbear? Did we see the bite in FNAF 4? Was it Jeremy who got bit? If so, why did he stick around with the company? Was Chica's Ultimate Custom Night line actually revealing the bite? We don't know the answers, but generally the consensus is that Mangle bit Jeremy prior to FNAF 2, and that's why we were hired in the game. But then FNAF 4 came along and a load of people assumed that Crying Child being chomped was the bite of 87. However, as evidenced by the Fredbear and Friends cartoon on the TV and the secret password of 1983 in sister location, we know that Crying Child was bit in 1983 and not 1987, resulting in 2 separate bite instances. Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers, but hey, that's FNAF for you. And it ain't Mike Trap. This has got to be the most frustrating debate in all of FNAF lore. At the end of Sister Location, in the secret ending, Mike has a little speech about how he's supposed to be dead but he isn't, and that he's going to go find his father, who just so happens to be William Afton. But this debate comes at the end of the scene. Since Mike says, "I'm going to come find you," and then Springtrap pops out, because, you know, he's in the ruins of Fazbear Frights. This made people believe that this was actually Springtrap popping out, and that Springtrap was Mike. However, it was only to show that, you know, dear old dad hasn't moved on to the blood-soaked pastures, and that you lighting the on fire didn't actually do anything, because he was being kept alive by the soul of one of his victims. Yeah, the whole Mike Trap Club was disproven by Scott himself when he said in a post on Steam to look at MatPat's explanation for the whole debate. But yeah, some people still swear that they're 2 different individuals, which is absolutely absurd but definitely changed everything. And it's 7 Survivor. William Afton always comes back, but honestly, that wasn't always the case. After FNAF 3, we thought that he was dead, at least until someone pulled the good old-fashioned screen brightening and saw William on the back of the final newspaper article in FNAF 3 where it talks about the Fazbear Frights fire. That's when we knew that William would be back again whenever the series continued. This wasn't the only time that we would theorize that Afton survived either, since in FNAF 6 we also got theories about William making it out of the final fire, since he was in front of the flames in the final scene, whereas other animatronics were behind or inside the fire. And this also turned out to be true, since in the Man in Room 1280 we learned that he made it out of the fire and was in the hospital, being kept alive by the soul of one of his victims, like supernatural life support. And in FNAF VR he was back as Sentient Code, which now makes us all believe that next time William bites the dust, he'll be back. I always come back. And in 6, Clara Afton. We know little about Mrs. Afton. We don't even know if there was a Mrs. Afton. We know that William probably had some form of woman in his life, assuming his kids are biological and not adopted, and we also know that William had some other female that he was pushing away, who was represented by Bellora's song. But we also have no idea who this original woman was, or if she's still alive. Maybe she died, maybe she left William. There have been plenty of rumors and ideas of how this situation is going on by different FNAF parody songs and animations, some of which involve car accidents, or Mrs. Afton walking in on whatever William was doing, but none of these have ever been confirmed. So like, people are still treating them as fact even though they're literally just fan animations. There is no official name yet for Mrs. Afton. Some people though call her Clara because of The Immortal and the Restless, the soap opera from Sister Location, since there is a vampire in purple that people compared to William, which for some reason even meant that because, you know, William's name isn't Vlad, but Clara, oh yeah, that must be the mother's name. Yeah, that's not true. Clara Afton doesn't exist, at least yet. She has no canon name, alright? So stop calling her Clara Afton. I still see comments like this, and I feel like at this point it's only to troll me. Are you doing it to troll me? Are you doing it to make me mad? Because it's working. FNAF has already driven me insane. You don't need to do it more, okay? I'm already crazy. Halfway through into number 5, William Afton. Before Sister Location, we didn't have the name of William Afton. We didn't have a name for the most infamous serial killer in video games. Rather, we had a nickname, the Purple Guy. This name became synonymous with FNAF and this mysterious killer. It became so associated, in fact, that anytime someone wore purple in a video, we all flipped out. Until one fateful day where the great MatPat came to us suffering through the Silver Eyes novel to bring us a theory that shaped FNAF history. The name of the Purple Guy was not the phone guy, but rather William Afton. Since this name came from the books, a lot of people were quick to dismiss it, saying that they're not canon to the games, so we can't think that it's true. But then, lo and behold, we get one simple line in the Sister Location intro that confirmed this suspicion. Quote, "Those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton." Boom! With that one line, MatPat had another theory confirmed, and everyone who said the books weren't canon ate their words, and I love that. And at 4, 2 Souls. The idea that Golden Freddy has two souls inside him only started thanks to the Bunny Call epilogue, where the spirit who was possessing William Afton went on to possess the Stitch Wraith along with the original spirit. That, for one reason or another, caused a load of people to start thinking that Golden Freddy had two souls inside him. However, you know, like MatPat says, it's just a theory. Lore-wise, as far as we know, Freddy only has one soul inside him. And the whole two eyes thing with the golden Freddy head and the FNAF 3 bad ending, it doesn't make sense, okay? If you want to go and have a better explanation as to why it doesn't make sense, check out my video on the topic. This presents an issue though, because if we look at a series through this lens, it can cause us to move in directions that we were never supposed to. Since if Golden Freddy having two souls is not the case, then us assuming that it is and then continuing on with that in mind is just going to cause even more problems. We have to look at things from multiple angles if we're going to do things properly. Having a single viewpoint can end up being our downfall. So whenever I suggest that Golden Freddy has one soul, or I go off that idea, it's because it's still actually possible. And you know what? It's more likely. That's right, I said it! I said it! Golden Freddy is most likely only possessed by one soul. You know what? You wanna come at me? Come on, MatPat. Finally notice me, senpai. Come on. Golden Freddy has one soul. Prove me wrong with hardcore facts, not theories. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Michael is Crying Child. The Crying Child has been a mystery since FNAF 4. He doesn't have a name, despite what people may be calling him, and currently they're working on trying to uncover his name, but as of yet, he isn't named Chris, he isn't named Doug, he isn't named Larry. But not only is his name a mystery, the character himself is also mysterious. He dies at the end of FNAF 4, but he's told that he will get put back together, presumably by William, but we don't know if he was actually put back together. However, when the revelation came that Mike knew what the Nightmare animatronics looked like, we absolutely flipped, thinking that he had to be Crying Child, and that he had to have been put back together. There was absolutely no way that he could be anyone else. That somehow William had kept Crying Child alive after he supposedly died in FNAF 4. This is something we all solidly believed. Until one fateful day when Fazbear Frights Book 3 Step Closer and its title story were released. Penultimately, and at number 2, Michael is Foxy Bro. Not only did everything change when we thought Crying Child was Michael Afton, but now we think that Michael is actually Crying Child's older brother, thanks to one simple line from Step Closer. The older brother in this story, who has an affiliation to Foxy, much like the older brother from FNAF 4, chews a lot of gum. This is pointed out multiple times. And Michael wrote in the survival logbook that if he could break one habit, it would be chewing gum excessively. However, this makes even less sense than him being a revived Crying Child, since how would this entirely separate character know about the Nightmare animatronics that were created inside Crying Child's head right before he dies? He couldn't have told him because, you know, he was dead, and it's not like Michael would also dream about these animatronics that had stomach mouths, a feature that we presume was added because Crying Child saw Elizabeth get scooped. Why would that make any sense? It wouldn't, and that's the point. It's all one big kerfuffle that drives me absolutely insane. That's why I believe that Michael is a rebuilt Crying Child as like his older brother, because, you know, it makes more sense, and I can't believe I have to say that. It makes more sense. Finally, in at number 1, Dream Theory. The most controversial FNAF fan theory of all time. The topic of Dream Theory came around when Scott started giving MatPat and other FNAF theorists hints during a live stream shortly after the release of FNAF 4. These hints included, in the FNAF 4 minigame, why would Toy Chica be missing her beak? What is seen in the shadows is often misunderstood in the mind of a child. And 4 games, 1 story. These hints led to the potential conclusion of the entire game series being a dream created by Crying Child as he lay dying on his hospital bed. That the real things we see in FNAF 4's 8-bit minigames resulted in the creation of some aspects we see in various games, like Toy Chica losing her beak when she goes on the attack in FNAF 2. And it also explained a whole load of different things, like the hallucinations and everything that seemingly defied logic. Yet, everyone hated the theory, so we stopped talking about it. But it certainly did change the way we looked at the FNAF series as a whole. So, had to be included.